All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. Today we're going to talk NBA futures markets, talk about some of the repercussions outside of some completed trades and some rumored trades. And we're going to close off talking some NBA draft and some baseball, which we haven't talked about in a while, and then also a look ahead to the Open Championship. But let's start off with the NBA, and we haven't talked about this on the show yet, but Bradley Beal getting traded to the Phoenix Suns for Chris Paul and Landry Shamet and some seconds. I think I'm in the minority in actually quite liking this trade for Phoenix, at least relatively. But what did you make of it, and how it shortened their title odds?
Yeah, I think I can't fault them. The way that the CBA unfolded after they made the Kevin Durant move, this was the next logical thing. What they gave up to get him was a steal. It was a heist. Would not have been possible without Bradley Beal having a trade exception, which gave him a lot more of the power in this negotiation than the Wizards had. And so it's, they got it. They got him for a bargain. They needed to do it considering the way that they sort of set up their team and the assets they gave up for Kevin Durant. And so I guess in the context of are the Suns doing right by the franchise? Yes. Does this move the needle for me in terms of Suns win share equity for the Western Conference? Not really. They may ultimately be a bet at some point during the regular season if they can figure some things out, if they can find some good role players, if they can kind of work, if they can come up with an above, Mendoza line defense, they may be a bet. But I don't think it's going to be perfectly smooth considering you're now, integrating an entirely, a little bit of a set of misfit superstar parts together with some deficiencies defensively and a new coach. Like, I don't know that between opening tip and Christmas, you're going to miss the boat on the Suns, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think with Beal, I get that he's got obviously a terrible contract. His skill set is very reductive. He's probably the closest facsimile there is in the league to Devin Booker, at everything compared to Devin Booker. At the same time, like, the Suns didn't have any financial flexibility anyway. So in terms of the contract, well, that's just Matt Ishbia's money. So what does anyone care about that for? And then I think the other thing is, like, is Bradley Beal better than Chris Paul and Landry Shamet for next season? Like, yes, almost certainly. So I think that it helps the Suns' chances of winning the title. I don't think it moves the needle massively, but I think they are better, especially when it looked like it was in play that they might just lose Chris Paul for nothing and just waive him. And now, instead of doing that, now they have Bradley Beal. Yeah. I think that this price is poison, though, at plus 320 to win the West. I don't really understand the pricing in either of the conference outrights, and we'll get into the East. But I think Denver's price is about fair, plus 230. I wouldn't be rushing to back that, but I think that's about fair. I'm in the minority on this, but I think, like, right there with Phoenix should be the Lakers and the Grizzlies, where the Lakers have some flexibility to make another move. And I think people realize, like, LeBron last year was like 29, 8, and 7 on great efficiency, playing great defense. Like, yes, he's going to be 39, but even if he falls off 10%, still all world. And then Anthony Davis, when he was healthy, which is obviously the caveat there, he was playing at like a top 5 player in the league level. Reeves is really good. Rui seemed to figure something out in the playoffs. And so I don't know. I think the Lakers, especially if they can get Paul, then all of a sudden, I think with Chris Paul, I think the Lakers are the second best team in the West. And then the Grizzlies, like, the Grizzlies were just a 2 seed. They were right at the top of favoritism for the Western Conference all season. They're young. Bane played the whole season with a busted toe. Jaren Jackson made huge leaps on offense. They lost Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. Those guys come back. And then Jar's only gone 25 games. That might even get reduced. But the thing is with the Grizz, which I don't think gets baked into these odds enough, is they have all of their picks. They have all of their assets. Dylan Brooks is gone. Like, they are going to make a move, and they're going to be better. So the way that you should think of the Grizz is not as the team that they are right now. It's the team they are right now with an additional really useful player, which is, like a 75% chance to materialize and just be on the team come playoff time. So I think the Lakers and the Grizz at 8-1 and 12-1 are both bets. What do you think of those teams?
I can't make a strong argument against. I agree with you that the Lakers are putting together something cool. I agree with you that the Grizzlies are underpriced at 12-1. I think they should be kind of in that tier around 6 to 8.
Yeah.
And the point you make about the Grizzlies, which is interesting to me, is that there are guys available like OG Anunoby who are kind of perfect plug and play to replace Dillon Brooks. And if they pull that off, then I'm going to be pretty, gung-ho Team Grizz this season. But ultimately, it does feel a little transition-y. A lot of the players were, a lot of the players at the top of this board for the Suns, for the Warriors, for the Lakers, for the Clippers are on the decline. They're into their 30s, some of them into their late 30s. And I think realistically expecting them to have a healthy full season and be kind of in the mix for a top seed in the West is asking a lot. I think if you want to try to capture value in the futures market right now, I'm inclined to make a case for the Thunder at 60-1. That they could shock the world and get a 2 seed in the West. Would that surprise you at all, Jay?
Regular season, no. 2 seeds. I think it's in play. I think definitely they could be a home court advantage team just because they have so much upside. Like Giddey is going to be a most improved player candidate. Could Shea be, like Shea finished like 5th in MVP this year, didn't he? Like if he was a top 3 MVP candidate, I think that's viable. Yeah. Chet could be super helpful from the get-go. J-Dub has another year to get through. It's so hard to get through 4 playoff series and actually win the West. But I think certainly, like, I will be probably betting a lot of the regular season alts overs for the Thunder. And also, like, if they want to go and get, Paul George or like whoever the star is that becomes available during the season, like they have more assets than anyone. So that is, it's just, are they there right now? Like, it doesn't seem like it. But at the same time, like, 2 years ago, the Grizz didn't seem there at all, and they had home court in the second round of the Western Conference, and they may have won that series if Ja didn't get hurt. So, teams can make leaps ahead of schedule, so I don't mind the Thunder. I
kind of like, the case for the Thunder over a lot of the teams that we've talked about is just that all of the important pieces on that team are ascending.
Yeah.
They're going to be young and healthy. They're going to play a lot of basketball during the regular season. They're going to win more games than anyone expects. And they seem to have a bona fide star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep. No, I don't mind that. I think like the Warriors, who are plus 650, I wouldn't touch that. Like, I don't understand why the Warriors would be better next season unless Jordan Poole figures whatever ailed him, if he figures that out next season. But the Warriors, like, it's a disgrace that the Warriors went 7 against the Kings and then got absolutely obliterated by the Lakers in Game 6 and that series. To play the way they did in the playoffs, backing up a regular season where they won 44 games or something in that range. So I don't have any inclination to bet the Warriors with or without Draymond Green. They'll be scary, I guess, but I think that they're on the other side well and truly, and I would put them below the Lakers and the Grizz, and I'm not sure like they're materially more likely than teams like the Clippers even to win the title. No interest for me in the Warriors. Any for you?
No, for all the reasons you mentioned. My former classmate, Mike Dunleavy Jr., taking over as the GM is pretty wild. If you had told me that's the future GM when we were in school, I would have laughed at you. But he's acquitted himself well in the front offices there, and moved into that role. And he's got the toughest test right out of the gate: figure out a way to bring Draymond back into the fold. Because Draymond Green leaves this team, all of a sudden, you now have meaningful Achilles heel type stuff with your defense. And as strong as Kevon Looney has taken a step forward, a lot of your other important pieces are taking steps backwards. And it's a little bit spooky how you kind of now populate a team of like sort of young projects coached by Steve Kerr, kind of anchored with Steph Curry as your only kind of bona fide. So it's going to be a wild roller coaster for the Warriors this season. They got a little ambitious. They tried to go from dynasty to dynasty, and then it was not not a clean transition. We knew it was going to be very, very difficult and impossible. And surely, if the cost of trying to accomplish this is losing Draymond Green, then ultimately, I think that's sort of a stain on sort of the end of what was an impossibly great regime for Bob Myers.
Yeah, and just not much upside left, and not many mechanics to even make a move and change the team. The only real hope there, I think, is that Jordan Poole becomes the guy he looked like he was going to be, 15 months ago, and that's where the upside comes from. And that doesn't seem like a great thing to count on right now. Let's talk about Damian Lillard, who is allegedly wants to stay in Portland, as he has for the past decade or so. This is a really interesting one, just from a pricing perspective, where we were talking about it before the show. But now that Scoot Henderson is a heavy favorite to go 3, if he is drafted by Portland, the moment that happens, and even like right now, the Miami Heat's championship odds should shorten, because it just seems so implausible that Dame is going to finish the season on a Blazers team that has Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and Scoot Henderson, all part of the team. Like, at that point, they're not going to be a meaningful team in the West this season. I'm not sure how else they can upgrade that team to contention if Scoot is the pick there. So, and then you're playing a bit of a guessing game with trade candidates, but like, it doesn't really make sense to me for the Nets to try and trade everything for Damian Lillard so that they can get a 4 seed. Doesn't really make sense, I think, for the Pelicans necessarily. Like, they're the other team with a lot of assets. And so the Heat just continue to make the most sense. And if you have Dame, Butler, and Bam, I think that just makes you the favorite in the East. I think that makes you better than Boston. You probably keep Caleb Martin, and then you just figure it out after that. So, that's kind of my read at the moment. This Eastern Conference odds board, I don't understand how Milwaukee's the favorite. To me, that's crazy. They should be closer to Philadelphia, Miami range. But what do you make of Dame, and what do you make of that Heat call?
Yeah, I will be fundamentally shocked if we get to opening tip on the season and the Bucks are still the favorite. I don't think it's coming. Too much, way too much uncertainty about the future of that roster. Nobody seems to want to go and play there for whatever it's worth. So they're going to have to get it done with, kind of they need to sort of embrace the Heat mentality in terms of, developing grinders to put around Giannis. I don't think that realistically they're going to be able to kind of compile a big 3, big 4 type of roster for whatever reason. Brook Lopez looks likely to leave. In my opinion, I think he's going west. And then Chris Middleton, the injury status and, what they have there as far as an asset and his decline combined with injury risk is enough for me to say that the Bucks are really a 1-man team at this point, 1.5-man team if you want to include Drew Holiday, who also is kind of getting up there. So yeah, I agree the Bucks are going to slide. Your point about Dame Lillard going to the Heat is fascinating. I had not thought this through, but without question, the sort of the dance that has been going on publicly during this draft run up, and in particular, sort of what's happened in the last 48 hours where, pretty clearly, at least for now, the Hornets seem to have made up their mind that they're taking Brandon Miller and that Scoot Henderson will be available at 3. We know that there were deals out there for the likes of the Pelicans. We know there were deals out there from other teams who want Scoot Henderson, who would give up players to do that, but I don't think they're getting enough, of a quality enough player on the way back to truly contend. So it seems like the Blazers want to sit on their hands, tell Dame Lillard, we tried, we couldn't get who we wanted, so we took Scoot, and then hope that Lillard then says, okay, thanks for trying, now trade me, because I feel like the Blazers don't want to be the bad guys in this situation. They don't want to make the decision. They want it to come from Dame. And that's fine. Like, I respect that. But that seems pretty clearly what they're trying to do right now. And then, where does he go? He does make the most sense, I think, by far. And that does launch them into clear top tier in the in the Eastern Conference. Also fascinated to see what the Celtics do. The Celtics have a lot of flexibility, a lot of moving parts. They're probably going to lose Al Horford, almost certainly. They may move Jaylen Brown, which I know sounds crazy to say out loud, but for whatever reason, they're ready to kind of find a new potential, second banana to put with the Jason Tatum. Okay, so yeah, interesting to see how that roster ultimately changes heading into next season. Sixers are an Embiid injury away from being just complete non-contenders next year, so I don't think you could take them seriously. So I agree with you. Scoot Henderson gets drafted. Bet some Heat futures.
Load up on the Heat. Yeah, the East is kind of terrible, which is weird to say. They had the three best teams by record this season, and like the three alleged behemoths coming into the playoffs were Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. Yeah. But you just look down the list, like it seems like there's only 4 teams who can realistically win the East, and those 3 and Miami. Cleveland maybe, but I mean, Cleveland just got waxed by a Knicks team that was injured and then got destroyed by a Heat team that had a limping Jimmy Butler and was shooting like 30% from 3. Like that Cavs playoff series was an absolute disaster. Jared Allen looked like a sub-replacement level player. He just got absolutely annihilated. So, and they don't really have many mechanics to get better either. And so unless Evan Mobley turns into a second team All NBA player, which is viable, like that's on the cards.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, so that would be the avenue there. But still, Mobley, like a second team All NBA, Mobley with Allen, with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and then kind of a reductive skill set of Jaren Allen in the playoffs. Like I don't really think that not much depth or ways to get really quality depth around them. Like I'm not sure that's a better team than Boston or Philadelphia, maybe.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, at this point, if you're parking a tiny amount of cash on an insanely stupid price, isn't it Magic at 250 to 1? I mean, if the East is bad, could they not get a top 4 seed?
Yeah, again, this would be something again where I think that like if they signed Fred VanVleet or something, that then it would be the regular season stuff. It's just like Paolo's not going to win the East in year 2, I don't think, with Wendell Carter and Franz Wagner and Fred VanVleet. Like I think that regular season stuff, just like last year, I love the Magic regular season stuff. Didn't come home, but I think they're going to be a fun team. All right. Reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. Still shaken up by this Orlando Magic to win the Eastern Conference. Come on.
Well, this is it. They're priced at the same price as the Hornets and below the Wizards. What?
Yeah, they're more likely.
That's nonsense. Yeah. Nonsense.
I agree that's silly. All right. First overall pick odds, that's Victor Wembanyama. Second overall pick seems to have materialized behind Brandon Miller. This has been a strange market. I was talking to some friends, and I think that if Woj hadn't gotten Paolo wrong last year, that Brandon Miller might have shortened a lot more. I think there's just a lot of skepticism around newsbreakers and the draft after last year. So it seems like it's going to be Brandon Miller too, and then Scoot Henderson will certainly go third. If you are wanting to bet on Brandon Miller, you're probably going to get just a better price doing that by just betting the 1, 2, 3 exacta of Wemby, then Miller, then Scoot, because Scoot will go third. He's not going to go past there. And then the fourth overall pick seems like it's going to be Amen Thompson. And then the fifth overall pick is where it starts to get a little bit wonky, where Jarris Walker, Cam Whitmore are the two favorites. Osar Thompson is around. And then there's a range of long shots as well. Any weirdness you think might creep into the top five?
Yeah, I think fourth and fifth are completely wide open right now, because I don't think that either of those teams wants to make those picks. I think they would much. I think effectively the whiff I get from everyone who lost out on the Wemby sweepstakes is we need a player who can help us win now, or else people are getting fired. And that does not equate with taking a G League prospect and hoping that in 3 years that guy is, a competent NBA player. So the likes of, Houston ultimately kind of pushing outwardly, kind of beating their chest about how much they love Amen Thompson. To me, that could be read as honest, that they're transparent, that they're being truthful. It could also read as they see him as the highest upside prospect that will be available at 4, and they're hoping that someone will trade up and give them a player to do so. And that they, there's the middle class here, like, 4 through 15, they all kind of have the same sort of upside, at least in 1 or 2 skill sets that you can kind of talk yourself into. We don't mind trading down. We could still get a project and, and maybe even a bona fide player. So I think, that's sort of the context that I hear when I hear people kind of saying, oh yeah, no, the Rockets love Amen Thompson. This is solidifying. Like, to me, at least, that sounds still like they're trying to potentially bait a trade. And I think it's entirely possible they could go in a different direction if they are on the clock at 4. But at the same time, Amen may be the best of who's available, and they just are stuck making the pick, and they decide, hey, this is the safer of the 2 twins, so we're going to take him. But there were bona fide reports that they had, just as good of a grade, if not a higher grade, on Alsar. And for what it's worth, Alsar has the more fixable shot. So if he goes 4, I'm not going to be surprised at all. 5th pick, again, I get the sense that the Detroit Pistons would love to get a player back, a bona fide, as opposed to taking another project on. This Pistons team is just youth. No, just projects everywhere. Adding another project to the mix doesn't necessarily feel like that's what Monty Williams would really necessarily want to build in terms of vision. So yeah, I think they're going to start swapping some of these projects for picks this offseason after this draft, and that may start with pick number 5. So would you agree that pick 5 is sort of the most likely to be traded? And do you think that there is anyone that would come up with a specific target in mind to, from who would be available if Amen or Alsar goes 4?
Yes, I think it would be Anthony Black, and he's 26-1 to go 5th. I think there's some 34-1 out there as well. Jake Fisher, in his article yesterday, wrote that the Utah Jazz are thinking of moving up to get Anthony Black, and to do that, to move up from 9, they're going to have to jump. Well, yeah, they're going to jump Washington at 8, who will seemingly take Black if he's on the board at 8, and then they might have to jump Orlando as well at 6. And so, I think that's the best bet on the board of these top 5 picks. Just betting on Utah to trade up, or in another team to trade up to 5 to block Utah, like Washington. So that would be my best bet on the board. Are you hearing anything about Anthony Black?
I think his floor is 8. He would be an obvious fit for Washington at 8, and I think that's why his over/under at 8.5 is so juicy to the under. That's one where there's not a lot of bets on the board outside of Wemby 1. There's not a lot of like really high likely stuff that you can dump liquidity on at the death. But Black under looks like one to me, just because if he's available, it's going to take a weird black swan event for some better, some player that the whiz rate higher available at 8 that they pass on Black, in my opinion. And I think Black in general is kind of much more of sort of the archetypal piece that you want to be building around if you're picking in that late single digits range. So I think his backstop is 8. I think him going 5th would not shock me at all. 6th would not shock me at all. And I guess 7 would surprise me, just if Indiana's making that pick. Like, I think Indiana would love a player in a trade. I think basically everyone except for the Magic picking 6 and 11, I think, is entirely open to swapping that pick for a sign and trade type, or just in general, like a bona fide NBA starter. So I think that's sort of the whiff in the air that's driving so much of the uncertainty.
Yep. Agreed on that. All right. Before we get to some baseball and golf, the Music City will be rocking with a different sound. Drew, NASCAR is back on NBC. The second half of the season heats up in Nashville, Sunday, June 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC. All right, Drew, you started dabbling in some K-props, I see. What have you got for us today?
Yeah, man. It's June. Grass season is fun all morning, but it turns out that grass tennis tends to, wrap up before lunch. And so at that point in time, I've been watching some baseball. And the K-props is actually pretty fun. This is sort of, it's I'm not going to get in trouble here because you can only get 250, 500 down on these. So even if because again, let's talk about process real quick. Built a model, projecting some K-props, put 4 into play the first day I did this. Went 1 and 3. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And kind of looked through, and I'm like, man, and all 4 were unders. And I'm like, that's kind of weird that I popped 4 unders. I wonder if there's a bust here. I was like, oh wait, I was projecting innings pitched, not batters faced. That's a huge mistake. So you tune that up, and the next day you go, oh, I got some winners now. Oh, yeah, I got more winners in day 3, and kind of continuing to build and look at the data, see what matters, and without giving away the entire secret sauce. K-props literally just a matter of coming up with a median projection for a K-prop is literally a matter of expected strikeouts, which is very, very closely tied to swinging strike rate. If you can create a missed pitch, then you are that much more likely to get a strikeout. You do not want to rely on umpires giving you the called third strike. It's a little bit more dangerous. Those are the coin flippy situations. A swinging strike is what matters. So in terms of pitchers, your strike rate, your swinging strike rate matters. In terms of batters, your swinging strike rate is what informs a projected amount of Ks. If you can predict then batters faced and expected K rate per batter, then you can come up with a fair price. And then the final piece of the puzzle is, well, what is a strikeout worth? It's worth about 15%. One strikeout around the median is worth about 15-16%, depending on what the number is, which is to say, if you see a line pop 5.5 and it's minus 137 to the over and plus 113 to the under, that means the market is technically sitting at 5.83, which is to say that, you can kind of nudge the actual half Ks up and down to kind of get a little bit more exact calculation of what your edge is. And then, for me at least, come up with a number, add a little qualitative layer on, who's the umpire? What is his, is he at the tails? Is he especially aggressive strike zone, or is it especially small strike zone that may lean me into an under or an over? And then finally, I look at lineups, and then I have a handful of batters. I have about 20 batters across the MLB who are not everyday players, but if they are in, they are strikeout machines. And so that will be the last thing that kind of pushes me either off of an under or onto an over. And so today, a couple that popped for me. I got 2 unders on the card so far. One of them is Taj Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays. His prop opened 5.5. It was minus 137 to the over, plus 113 to the under. That was the example I used. So market saying 5.83 was his fair total. I am projecting him to have 4.8 strikeouts today. So that's an under bet for me on Taj Bradley. And then I played Rich Hill as well of your Pittsburgh Pirates. His total sitting at 4.5. It was minus 147 to the over, plus 123 to the under, which means market's projecting about 5Ks. We'll say 4.95, about 5Ks. I'm projecting 4. So I played his under 4.5 at plus 123. And, the other fun thing about this is K-props kind of populate in the morning, and it's a land grab. It is a race to kind of get out there and get the best price first, because these get beat up pretty fast. And it's been fun kind of learning just sort of the dynamics of the K-prop market before we have lineups and when these numbers first go up. So I'll be kind of sprinkling these in throughout the summer just to keep things interesting. But again, for me today, I have Taj Bradley under 5.5, and I have Rich Hill under 4.5.
I like it. Yeah, Taj Bradley is a proper roller coaster. I think the other game he struck out 9 guys, the first 9 batters, and then just completely fell off a cliff. Like he is extremely erratic. I will say, as someone who used to trade K props, that these prices move around violently from morning to close, so they're a very vulnerable market, particularly when they open up. So if you have an edge, the limits aren't going to be huge on these type of markets, but it is definitely something that can be beat. Before we move off of baseball, my 2 bets at the moment, the San Francisco Giants should not be plus 500 to win the NL West. That should be close to plus 300. Market just continues to, again, violently overrate the Dodgers, who don't have any pitchers at the moment, outside of Clayton Kershaw, who was magnificent last night. But the Dodgers are not the team that they have been the past few years. They may fortify at the deadline, but they got a lot of stuff that they need to fortify. And I think the Giants have been very underrated in that market. So they are the best bet on the board for me. And then the other bet, Drew, and this is a bit of a weird one, because it might have already lost. It might have already lost before the season, before it even took the field. But I don't think Fernando Tatis should be 35 to 1 to win MVP when in Baseball Reference War, he's already gone past Acuna, playing 20 less games. I'm not sure everyone realizes this. It's starting to get populated now in the discourse, but Tatis has been the best defensive right fielder in baseball this year, and he's never played right field before. It's ridiculous. He won the game on the weekend against the Rays with an outfield assist. He is blasting home runs. He is just the guy that he was pre-injury, pre-suspension. And if you take the steroid thing out, I think he would be plus 300 to win MVP right now.
Sure.
The Padres being 3 games under 500 is the other issue there, but they're still a favorite to make the playoffs. And so the market is just baking in not 100%, but a 90, 95% certainty that voters just aren't going to vote for him because of the suspension. I don't know. I think it's likely they're not going to vote for him, but I'm not sure it's 90, 95%. I think it's more like 70% or 75%. So I think that Tatis, because there is a chance voters just look at it he's clearly the best player by margin. He served his time. He came back. He led this team to the playoffs. He's been contrite. There is a kind of a redemption story there a little bit. So I don't know. It's difficult to buy that someone's going to win MVP in a year that they serve time for a PED suspension.
Yep.
At the same time, I think people also don't realize that the majority of baseball writers who are typically pretty old school, the majority of writers, they voted Bonds in to the Hall of Fame. It's just he didn't get the 75% threshold or whatever it is. So I don't know. Do you think Tatis has a chance if he's the most deserving candidate?
Yeah, I mean, no one has distinguished themselves enough in the National League and is healthy. So that looks completely stealable to me. My major takeaway from your whole breakdown so far, though, is I bet a little Dodgers to miss the playoffs before the season started, and that looked dead. But I think they might miss.
Yeah,
the West is good. The Diamondbacks have overperformed, but they're good. The Giants are good. The Padres might catch a little bit of heat. Dodgers could finish 4th in the West, which would be amazing.
Yeah, I think they're probably around plus 500 fair to miss the playoffs. So certainly live, and that's certainly a better price than what you would have bet before the season. So yeah, they don't have any pitchers outside of Kershaw. And then after that, it gets really, really ugly. And the bottom of the lineup also is pretty flawed too. So Dodgers very vulnerable. Let's talk about the Open Championship to finish off. Snakebitten Rory McIlroy, star-crossed, is the favorite at 8 to 1. Shorter than the immortal Scotty Scheffler, who I believe now Scotty Scheffler has finished top 12 in his past 17 starts consecutively. It's completely insane. John Rahm 9 to 1, Brooks Koepka 12 to 1. Wouldn't touch that. And then the names keep trickling along to get to last year's winner, my countryman Cam Smith, who might have turned the corner a little bit. Do you have any early bets on the Open, and do you agree that Rory should be the favorite?
No, I think it should definitely be Scotty Scheffler. I don't really get I mean, I get it. Like Rory is the fan favorite, and you see him do well in one major, and you're immediately everybody runs and bets him for the next one, I guess. But Scheffler's been playing better golf all season by far, and he looks to have solved a little bit of the issues he's had with the putters. So I think he should be probably about the same price he went on for the U.S. Open. I don't have a great breakdown of the Open. I haven't been winning money on golf this year. I've been losing money on golf this year, so I'm a little kind of gun shy to get too crazy. And I had eyes for Cam Smith because, just in general, I like the way that the course set up for him and sort of the where it fell in the calendar in terms of his ultimate progression this season. But 18-1 doesn't look bettable. I wanted him in the 20s, and now it's gone. So it's for me, at least, I don't really know where to go here. The only thing I can help add a little bit of color to this is it's been hot in the UK this summer, and it has not rained very much. And I don't see that changing at all between now and when they contest the Open. So you could this could be like all-time wild, brown course, fast greens, so it's just some tricky conditions for links golf. And, to the degree you want to cross off some U.S. players because of that, I think that's completely fine. And that may narrow down your field a little bit. But this is going to be kind of extreme links golf by the way that the weather looks going between now and the kicking off of the tournament.
Yeah, Wyndham Clark as well is the other name that we should mention. He's 35-1. And he might just be the best golfer in the world now. Who knows? Wyndham Clark. It's 100.
Never heard of him.
And got it done. Anyone else? Any other kind of golfers that you're paying attention to leading up to the Open, or is it largely the guys at the top of the list?
Yeah, I think we're still kind of in this cycle where, I guess I can't really say that because what was Wyndham Clark going into the U.S. Open? 100-1. So, yeah, crazy number like that. Yeah, I didn't think we lived in a world where somebody outside of the top 20 had a realistic shot to put together 4 good rounds, but apparently we do. I guess I'm not going to use a single sample to guide my thinking on that and continue to kind of monitor things here. But I still think we're in a pretty top heavy time on the PGA Tour.
Yep. And I agree with you. I think Scotty Scheffler, until he doesn't finish top 12 at every single tournament that he starts, I think he should just be the favorite at every tournament for the foreseeable. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Good luck betting on the draft. It is a tumultuous night, but it can be a profitable one. Those markets are quite vulnerable, so good luck betting on that, and we will see you next week.